Hi, everybody. Welcome to NLL Lacrosse Talk. I'm Gary Groob. With me today, I have a very special guest from the Oshawa FireWolves. I have Tye Kurtz. Tye, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The first question we ask everybody is, what made you pick up a stick?
Honestly, I don't want to say I was forced into it, but my dad was the first one to give me a stick when I was a kid. Him and his three brothers all played. They didn't start too young. They started probably around like the 11, 12 age, somewhere in there. But ever since I can remember, I was probably born with a stick in my hands at some point, or a toy as a kid. But started playing organized, I guess, at like 3 years old, whatever you even call that. I don't even know, like below paperweight, that kind of stuff. Yeah, when like all the dads are on the floor throwing a ball around. My mom, a couple years ago for Christmas, actually made a video of all the stuff she had in her old video recorder. But that's as early as it starts. All the credit goes to my dad for that. He kind of introduced me to it and has kind of been, alongside me from the get-go.
Right. What kept you in the game?
I fell in love with it, honestly. From when I started, I always loved it. It kind of gave me a sense of purpose as a kid. It was, it was a big sport from where I'm from growing up. It was relatively big. I had a lot of friends that played, but at the same time, it wasn't hockey. It wasn't soccer, which were a little bigger, but so it was a little unique. Saying I played lacrosse, I was proud of it. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was something I enjoyed watching, going to rock games as a kid, stuff like that. And my dad honestly still plays to this day in Masters for the Rams over in the Center Wellington, Halton Hills area. But he still plays, so it never really gave me a reason to put it down, and I fell in love with it right away, and quit a lot of other things along the way to make more time for it.
Right. Who would you say was your other than your dad was your mentor that kind of got you in the right direction when you started playing?
Yeah, growing up from it would have been Pee-wee, novice before that, novice or tyke. Chris Driscoll, he was the captain of the Toronto Rock for many years. Him and Bob Watson, both their sons. Chris's son Kyle was my age, went to elementary school with him, and Bob's Whipper's son was a year younger than me. Obviously, still plays in the NLL.
Right.
But they were my coaches growing up. So Chris was kind of there every year. Whip was there every other year, but Chris Driscoll kind of coached me from when I was 6 or 7 years old through my first couple years of junior. He was my head coach the whole time. So I give a lot of credit to him, for kind of mentoring me and teaching me kind of both ends of the floor and the style of play. Obviously kind of shifted towards the offensive end as my minor career extended, but all the credit in the world to those two. It gave you like a little bit of a heightened sense of purpose with having two, guys who are playing in the NLL to go to a game. Like, those are my coaches. So that was a big part of it too. It was fun going to watch them and being in the crowd. And, as a kid, knowing a couple guys on the floor relatively well and taking a lot of pride in that. So I give a lot of credit to Chris and Whip.
Right. That's the one thing about the lacrosse community, right? It's such a tight-knit community and accessible. You guys are always so accessible that when you're picking the game up, to say, yeah, I know him, and to have another invested interest in the game really is something, especially at a young age.
Yeah, no, it's huge, honestly. I think that's one of the unique things with lacrosse, and I really value that. I was fortunate enough to run a couple camps when I was in Albany, and then I did a couple of me and Alex Simmons ran a camp last week, actually, and two of my cousins who are really young. One's exactly 20 years younger than me, actually, and they were both there. And my uncle took a picture of me, Alex, and the two of them, and sent us a message after. It was like, "Thank you for doing all this. Thanks for the pictures." And it's gonna be really cool for the boys to come to a game and now be able to point out not only you but another guy on the floor that they know, that they can say they've met before. So I think it is a big part of it to give back, and it means a lot to the kids, and it means a lot to us as players to have guys coming up and knowing who you are and asking for autographs, but still also treating you like a person, and not like not necessarily like a professional athlete because they're 5 or 6 years old, right? So it's a
Right.
big part of it, and I enjoy it and seeing the smiles on their faces, and it makes me smile too. I really love coaching the game and giving back and teaching because I had such a great experience as a kid.
Right. Now you went to high school at the at the Hill Academy, and I've had a number of guys who've coached there, a number of guys who've been there, a number of guys who've played for them. Talk about it. You grew up primarily box, and here you go into more of a field program. Was there a big culture shock?
Actually, I turned down the Hill. I never actually went there. So to keep going off that though, so I actually went to the University of Delaware without playing high school field lacrosse.
Oh,
I was going to go to the Hill. Ended up financially not being possible for me, and logistically from like travel and stuff like that. I was just in a weird area to have to commute. So when I went to school, I never had played field lacrosse, and it was a transition to say the least. My freshman fall, my first year there, I had no clue what I was doing. I had never really played against an American long pole that knew what to do with it. It was more so Canadian guys that play with their stick sideways like it was a short stick, like playing box defense. So it was a definite reality check for me. It took a while to get used to it. I say the biggest thing were the guys around me and the coaches there to, the endless support of, we know what you're capable of, and we know we have a role for you eventually. You just got to kind of figure it out on your own. And we know it's going to take some time, but, countless hours of film and, individual teaching and stuff like that kind of helped me get over the hump. But to answer your question, it was an adjustment. It was a big culture change. It was basically a whole different sport at the start. And then you kind of realize that it's not. It's still the same sport. It's still a stick and a ball and a couple buddies out on the ground. So just zipping the ball around and finding a way to utilize my skill set on that area of the field. And for me, the way I looked at it was it's the same game with a bigger net and a smaller goalie. So hopefully I'll shoot a little better. That was kind of my philosophy going into it. But no, it was a good transition. It was fun, and I don't regret anything about my time at Delaware, and field lacrosse game itself has been a lot, and it brings a lot into the NLL game as well. And you learn a lot of things from a lot of guys, and you try to pick up on those key little things.
well, when you're talking about field, is it a big transition going from having to do things box where it's by feel to more of a blueprinted strategy and trying to follow along what's already been presented to you as your route?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the box game is so free flowing, and so you can draw things up and you can have patterns, but at the end of the day, it's very similar to hockey or a basketball, where you can have some plays here and there, but you got to be a ball player to kind of get after it and to have success. Whereas the field game is, we're gonna run this set. Everyone's got a spot on the field. When this guy goes, that's your trigger. Everyone moves in sync, and these are your reads. It's almost like more related to football, where everyone has a route to run as a wide receiver and the quarterback has the ball. But at the end of the day, there still are so many gray areas. And if you can find success in those areas and a way to, kind of bring your skill set to the table, I think that's the biggest key. Because again, at the end of the day, it's a stick and a ball, and it's a skill sport. And if you have the skill and you work towards it, and you watch film and you put the effort in, there's no reason you shouldn't be having success if you truly believe in yourself to do that.
Right. And that's exactly what you did in Delaware. You had some major accomplishments. CAA Offensive Player of the Year, first team All CAA, third team All American from USA Lacrosse Magazine. So you had a lot of success over the years that you were there. Did you have that aha moment that I got this, I get this, and I can go forward with this?
Funny enough, I did. My first game was terrible. It was freezing cold. It was probably 6 degrees outside. I say freezing, and 6 degrees is not that bad, but wind chill on top of a field. You're in shorts and a t-shirt, and it was cold. And I never really played lacrosse outside in the cold for the most part. So that game was tough. My next two weren't too much better. And then my fourth game of my career, we were at home at Delaware Stadium, and we were playing against a relatively good team in St. Joe's, and I found success, kind of found a role for myself in that game, and had a successful day shooting. And I think that was kind of the moment where I didn't really look back too much after that. And I kind of knew, all right, not that I had arrived in any way, but it was more of, I had kind of regained the self-confidence that I belong here and I can kind of fulfill the role that they put me in. But yeah, it was game 4 of my college career was kind of that moment. It wasn't like I came out of the gate swinging in game 1 and everyone was like, yeah, we found a guy that can help us win here. They had a lot of patience with me, so I give them a lot of credit because they could have yanked me off the field after my first shift of game 1 after I stepped in the crease, which you can't do in field, which I found out the hard way. But I think I said a moving pick or something, which is so typical of a Canadian guy who's played box across his whole life to do. But
Right.
But no, game 4 was my kind of aha moment to answer your question.
Right. It's funny because that's the Canadian way, right? We won a gold medal in Manchester with playing box on field. So that's not really a bad thing. It's a pretty good history and lineage that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to drill back a little bit. I want to go into your junior here, more or less in your region, in your area. You started out with junior B with the Guelph Regals. Let's talk about that and how it got you prepared to get into junior A and then eventually NLL and PLL and the rest of that.
Yeah, I started my minor team growing up in Guelph was always really good. Actually, we were always a qualifier team or a Final 6 caliber team. Except for my major midget year, we had a lot of guys kind of go the hockey route, or a lot of guys kind of hang them up at that point. So that year our team went drop from A to C. And I was fortunate enough to get a call from the Guelph Junior B team while I was in midget and played most of the season there. I think I played 13 or 14 games. I can't remember exactly. And then Guelph had an affiliation with Kitchener. So I played for both of them my rookie year. My rights were in Guelph, so I played every game there. And then because of the affiliation, they let me play in Kitchener for as many games as I could. So I kind of got eased into junior A, which was nice. And I got to start junior B a little earlier than most guys just because of the way the dominoes kind of fell. But it was great. I mean, to play junior B as a younger guy, my mentality was more so just like, you have the excuse of being young, but don't use it on yourself. Right. It was
Right.
one of those things where it's, everyone would always say it's okay. You're young. And I just didn't want to accept that. But the game speed from junior B to junior A, it is different. You get a lot of junior B caliber players are very, very good, but the junior A speed and the crispness and the passing and the flow is just way faster. So I was grateful for, at the time I was kind of upset. I wanted to just play junior A. I thought I was ready, but looking back on it, having the opportunity to kind of be an average piece on a junior A team, but go to junior B and be one of the better players statistically, I think was a lot. It did a lot for my confidence and really helped. And I got to play like 35 games that summer rather than just like one season. I got to play almost 2 full seasons along with playoffs. So it was great. It just as much lacrosse as I could play that summer. I was still young. I was made of rubber. So it worked out well. I'm grateful for it. And I was always happy to represent Guelph. It's kind of where my roots were and where I played my minor lacrosse.
Right. Now you move up into the Kitchener junior A. We talked about the speed difference and things like that. Now you obviously assimilated well, and junior B was a great jump off for you because you won Rookie of the Year. Talk about what that means to you for your confidence.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, historically at that time, the Guelph teams hadn't been great, and I felt like the team we had was pretty good. And to be kind of one of the focal points on that team as a younger guy was great. And you had so many older guys that had done it for a long time that were giving you so much feedback and so much confidence, and it was huge for me to hear it. You always look at the older guys as the leaders. And, for them to kind of bestow that confidence in me to be able to come as a younger guy and not take the reins. We had some other very skilled players, but to be part of a really talented group at the time was great for me. And it really did help my growth as a player.
Right. Who coached you there?
Wayne Burke was there when I was in midget. And then I believe it was Brady Campbell was there my true rookie year.
Right. All right. Now let's move forward, and you get drafted in the NLL to Albany, 2022, 17th overall. Let's talk about draft day, and your name gets called. Talk about the feeling that here I am. I've made it.
Honestly, it was kind of bittersweet at the time. I was so grateful to be drafted and to get put in the opportunity that I got put in. It was nerve-wracking for sure. You didn't know where you're going to get called. You didn't know what the plan was. I had
Mhm.
originally thought I was going to go before I did, honestly.
Right.
So that part, I think it kind of set a bit of a fire, seeing teams pass up on me. But at the same time, no one was taking anyone in my position, which kind of sat well with me at least and gave me a bit of confidence. Um, but it was just overall, it was something you look back on, and in the moment, it was just so surreal. It was one of those things where you made it, but the work is kind of just beginning, because there are
Mhm.
so many talented guys, and I had gotten drafted, and right away looked up exactly who was on that roster and who I was competing with, and what I had to prove, to everyone. But it was good. I was lucky. I had another year. I went back to school for a year, so I kind of got to sit with it for a year. I took the 5th year option at Delaware, but
Mhm.
the draft day itself was actually put on really well too. It was an in-person draft in Toronto. I forget, it was at a hotel. I forget the name of the hotel, but
Yeah, I
it
was
was
there.
really cool. They had guys calling. They had Fruit up there calling names and shaking hands and get putting jerseys on. It felt like it was like a professional draft. And in the past, they had the COVID drafts online on Zoom.
Mhm.
So it was really nice to have that experience. That was probably the biggest thing for me was going in with a suit and tie on and hearing your name called and putting the hat and jersey on. And that was like the moment you dream of. And like when you envision it as a kid, that's like a lot. Like for me, I watched the NHL drafts a lot growing up, and that was kind of, you know, almost the process they go through. They go up, shake a hand, put the jersey and hat on, take a picture, go back and meet the coaches. And I got the whole thing. I got the whole thing in one, and it was relatively close to home for me. So I got to go back and see a lot of family after and have a bit of a draft party. So the whole aspect of it was really well put on and really cool. And I was so grateful for the opportunity to be invited to that and get to hear my name called for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I believe I have the picture of it here.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. No,
look so
I was there
young.
taking pictures and asking questions as soon as you guys finished getting shell shocked and Ashley got her question.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Brett Fruit's first foray as commissioner. He'd been on the job for about 3 weeks. I was lucky enough to actually get an interview with him there for about 15 minutes, and I got him on the show about a month later. But yeah, it was a great event. The talent level in that draft was insane. Was
Yeah,
until what we're hearing about next year. Um, this was probably the best draft I've seen in years.
there's a ton of talent coming out of that. I mean, so many guys only in year 3 or 4 at this point have made such big cases for them. Some guys competing for MVPs probably this year, offensive player of the year caliber level guys, and a guy who's already won. One of my best friends, Owen Grant, has already won a major award in the league. So definitely nothing short on talent. But
Mhm.
again, it's one of those things where you got to keep proving yourself every day. It's only year 3, so I'm sure I can speak for most of the guys in that draft that the work's still just beginning, and everyone's still kind of chasing that ring. So, and I guess a couple guys in Buffalo have won a couple, but everyone that's the end goal for everyone as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. Now it brings us to your first training camp, and my favorite question to ask is: was it what you envisioned?
Uh, that's a great question. Honestly, I didn't know what I envisioned. I didn't know if we were going to get bag skated. I didn't know, if it was going to be a lot of contact, if it was going to be a lot of flow drills. I had no idea what to expect. So I kind of just prepared for everything. For me, the biggest thing was going in the best shape that I could go in and have my stick in my hand every day leading up to it and make sure that I was ready, um, making sure that I was ready on all fronts. And Coach Clark runs a real tight ship, and I think he's the best coach in the league. And um, it was pretty good. We did a lot of scrimmages, which I liked. That's kind of the main way they evaluated guys was in game like scenarios. I guess anyone can run a flow drill, and anyone can run a 2-on-1 in practice at this level, and anyone can really run a 2-on-2 to the expectation of the coaches for the most part at least. But they did a lot of their evaluation on scrimmages, which I didn't know was going to be such
Right.
a huge factor of it. But honestly, that was the best part. It's almost like when the game starts, you're not even thinking about a tryout. You're more so just playing the game you love. So that for me was huge. I felt like that's kind of where I'm at my best is more in a game like scenario than running a drill. There are some guys who are dialed into drills and a lot faster and a lot stronger than me. But for me, the game like scenarios were a big part of it.
Right. Now we get out of training camp and we get into Albany and talk about, getting in there. You're now in the NLL and talk about the fan base, the arena, MVP arena. To me, I enjoyed it. I loved going in there, and it was a 5-hour drive for me, but it was well worth the trip heading out there. Not full, but the people who were there were all they knew what they're talking about. So there was a lacrosse IQ there.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I actually lived in Albany my rookie year. I moved down there for the duration of the season and ran a bunch of school programs for the team and
Right.
was there full time. I was about 20 minutes from the arena, maybe half an hour from the arena. But I loved it. The hotel we stayed in was right next door. The arena itself was great. The turf, I think we still have the same turf, but the turf was fantastic. And the fans were great. And I've always said, I think I'm on the record saying it at some point in my career, numbers are one thing and that's what people look at. But to me, the atmosphere is such a bigger part and the fans understanding the game. And obviously it was relatively new to the area, the game of indoor lacrosse. But, I thought they really were, kind of buying into it and catching on. And games seemed to get more and more intense as the years got on. And as the season went on. It's just, I understand it's a hard place to get to in the winter when it's, negative 15 outside and the middle of January. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I loved the fans there and I love the crowds, the crowds there. And, I got to meet a lot of really cool people and got to, go to a lot of really cool schools and teach kids lacrosse for a good 6 months almost. And I enjoyed it a lot. I have nothing but good things to say about that place, that organization, and that community and everything I got to experience. And I hope that other people had a very similar experience to me because I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, I still have a lot of friends out there. I really enjoyed all the times that I made trips out there. I want to talk about the 2024 year because that was a magical season. That was a very, very young team. You, Alex Simmons, a number of guys who really, Marshall Palace comes to mind also. He's also been a former guest, and we've talked about this, is everything clicked. The year previous when you weren't playing yet, injuries just absolutely destroyed the FireWolves, and they had a really tough time. They had a really tough time keeping it together that year. This particular year, everything worked, and you guys went all the way to the finals against the Bandits. Let's talk about the team itself and how everybody kind of meshed together.
Yeah, I mean, the reality was we were really young, and the expectations were in our mind high, but from the outside noise, there really weren't much expectations, and we kind of had the don't care attitude and went in and just kind of played and didn't. A lot of the younger guys it was a couple like their first year or two and didn't really know what to expect, and we started winning games and backstopped by Dougie, who I think is the biggest game breaker in the league, and he was playing at the top of his game, and we just kind of kept rolling and never really looked back. We had a little hiccup in the latter part of the year. I think we went on a bit of a losing streak, and we were like this can't happen. We just went. We had such a great start, and then the playoffs rolled around, and we won a game going into playoffs, and had that confidence, and kind of went back to the way we started the season, and went on a roll, and stole one in San Diego, and were able to get them to do the same travel back the next day and play them at home, and we're able to take that one as well, and then obviously you get to the finals against a really talented and an experienced team in Buffalo, and we weren't able to capitalize on that opportunity. And, to this day, it still haunts me because we were so close and it would have been, such a great experience and story. But at the end of the day, for that being my first year in the league, it was pretty cool. And, it just shows kind of what we were capable of and what we are capable of. And I think that's the biggest thing is just kind of remembering, you never want to look back, on the past because you're not in the past anymore. But at the same time, just to be able to have that in the back of your mind that we've been there before and I've gone through those experiences as a team together. And, this coaching staff's been there before and they've won championships. And just to have that in the back of your head, you don't think about it too much, but, when shit hits the fan, more or less, you've been in every scenario and, you've won big games. But yeah, that year was something special. It was one of those things where, starting off 6-0, it was almost like nothing could go wrong. We couldn't lose if we tried. And and we ended up, it was a successful year. We were a couple wins away, but it was a great experience. And that group of guys, I'll be brothers with forever.
Right. A lot of us in media were saying you guys were too young to know you were supposed to lose this game and lose that game. So you just kept winning.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, we kind of just didn't really know what to expect. And, all of us had come from winning programs, whether it was in college or junior or whatever it was. And, winning's the expectation. And when you get to the highest level, you still expect to win. Every time I step on the floor, my expectation is that everyone's going to give whatever they can to win the game. And that's,
absolutely,
everything was clicking. The ball was falling and the ball was staying out of our net. We were winning every face-off with Nards there and stopping every ball with Dougie. So, we're hoping to get back to that. And having that experience in the past, I think is a good thing to have in order to get there.
Right. Now, we fast forward a little bit and we have the move to Oshawa. Did it take you by surprise, or did you guys have a little bit of a notion that this was coming? Because I know I was at the President's Cup and, word had come down and all of us are sitting there talking, hush, hush, did you hear? Did you hear? Especially since it was around the corner.
Yeah, I was actually out in Vancouver in New Westminster. I believe it was during the Western Finals. We were playing Coquitlam, and word had kind of spread to our team that it was probably happening. And then we had a team meeting later, or maybe in early September, end of August, somewhere in there, that it was confirmed that it was going to happen and they were going to announce it later that week. But I up until then, I had no idea. I know there had been like a couple murmurs here and there that I thought were all just rumors and people hearing random stuff. But when I went out to Vancouver in June, I was fully convinced that I was coming back and playing in Albany. And not that like it was a surprise to me, but it wasn't like I hadn't heard a murmur or anything, but it was the first time I had heard it from a reliable source that I was like, oh, okay, this is going to happen.
Right. It's funny because, with the Riptide moving to Ottawa the year previous, and we had talked to Rich Lisk about that and the amount of money that was saved because most of the guys are from in and around the area. Mm-hmm. That, when per diems, flights, everything else, it just makes sense, especially with the Canadian dollar being low, to try and keep it that way. And this looks like it was another move that way. But it comes into a hotbed. Now, I'm sorry Frank isn't here tonight because we had been pushing this ever since Toronto moved to Hamilton, was that with that void in the East, that Oshawa would be the perfect place for it. And the Tribute Center, back then the GM place, was the perfect place for it because you had Peterborough, you had Whitby, you had Coburg, you had all the other places in and around there that were hotbeds of summer lacrosse to draw from as a fan base, and to fill an arena that's 6,000 or 7,000 people shouldn't be a hard thing. It doesn't look like we're far off on our ideas because you've had great crowd you got there.
It's been fantastic. I mean, the crowd, the atmosphere has been electric. No matter how the game's going, it's and they get it. They get the small details in games, a big loose ball, a timely save, a big hit, even like a reset, like getting a ball off a rebound or something, or killing a penalty, stuff like that. It's hard to teach that. It's you got to understand the game, and that crowd does. And I think, when I found out we were moving there, I think the big thing that originally kind of sat with me was, the provincials are there every year. So I'm familiar with the area from going there ever since I could walk, basically. And the other one that I was happy for were the Peterborough fans. I feel like they had been traveling, no matter where the closest game was for them, it was still a couple hours, 3 hours away to the closest game. And now they got something not in their backyard, but, the hour range ish around there, hour and a bit. For them, I think it's great because they pack up there for the senior A games, and they're a hotbed and they do everything right up there. And I think it's well deserved that they have something to maybe come down and cheer for, and something within range for them. But yeah, I think it was an excellent location choice. I mean, again, we have so many guys that are local to the area. Dyson obviously lives right in town there, and he's obviously a stud. And to have a guy like that, and then bringing a guy like Kyle Rubish, who's from the area as well. And then again with like Dawson Theed and Emerson Clark bringing them in, and you got so many guys that the fans already have a relationship with, so it just builds on the atmosphere and builds on the relationships that we can have with the fans because they're already familiar with so many guys they've watched playing since they were kids, basically.
Yep. Now here's an interesting question I really hadn't given much thought about, but now that you've changed locations, do the rivalries change? Because of course, when you're in Albany, you had Rochester and Buffalo as your main rivals. Now in Oshawa, you have Toronto, you have Ottawa as your main rival. Do you still have the heat on when Buffalo and Rochester come by, or is it now shifted focus that these are your main rivals?
It hasn't. I haven't really thought about it too much. We haven't played Buff or Roch since we moved. I think we play them both at home in these last 7 games. For me, Ottawa is always a rivalry with my brother playing there. And Toronto, the way we started off the season and them being right next door and kind of moving into their territory a little bit. I think the Toronto one's a big one. For sure. But again, that Toronto Buffalo rivalry is always there, and it's going to be hard to, kind of overcome that. But for me personally, the Buffalo one's a big one just because, they knocked us off my first year and we had beaten them twice that year as well. I believe maybe one, I can't remember, twice that year or something. And it's always a good battle with those guys. And again, you always want to beat the defending champs and prove yourself. But from a rivalry perspective, I think it's so fresh and so new that we're still kind of trying to build that and see what clicks. But there are so many local teams that I'm sure it won't take long. And I'm sure that the fans the fans make the rivalry as well, right? When you have visiting teams and being in an Ontario team, the opposing team, there's a lot of Ontario guys on other teams. So you always got a lot of fans from other teams there, which is nice. It builds the rivalry and builds the suspense, and it always makes for a pretty great atmosphere.
Right. Now, there's been some ups and downs in this season. I don't really want to harp on some of the lower things. There is a lot of positive to take from the way the team has played, because one, the power play has always been kind of even in the year that you made it to the finals, was kind of a misnomer. We kind of joked it in football. Maybe we could decline the penalty and just keep playing. But, this year is actually coming around. Your power play is actually moving quite well, especially over the last few games. Last game kind of not as much, but generally speaking, it's moving forward. Is there a lot of emphasis on some of those aspects that Clarkie's putting to try and get these things back up to snuff?
Yeah, I think we take a lot of pride in special teams. We do a lot of work on it in practice, and we moved guys around earlier in the season, try to find roles for everyone where guys are in positions to, be as successful as they can be with everyone's respective skill set. And it's a big part of the game, right? Clarkie always said it's a 1-goal league, and we've been on the right and wrong side of that multiple times in my short career. But, if you can get an extra power play goal here or kill a penalty there. And, we talk a lot about discipline and not taking penalties in general, but you can have really good special teams. And again, it's hard with Nards out with the face-off team as well. But if you can have really successful special teams, the sky's the limit. It just adds to things you can do. I think it was Vancouver at the start of the year was averaging, a really lackluster amount of goals on even strength, but their transition game and their power play was clicking at an all-time rate, and they were winning games by 1 or 2 goals consistently because of their special teams. So it's an aspect of the game that's rare. That's really important. It's not just offense and defense. There's so many little gray areas and little things to work on. And we spend a lot of time critiquing our power play to get it up to par and to, kind of exceed our expectations on it and expect to score whenever you get your hands free on it. We throw a lot of plays out there that put guys in positions to be successful, and it's up to the players to execute.
Right. I always love a strong transition game because it makes the other team disheveled. They're jumping early. They're taking penalties for too many men, all kinds of things. They don't know what you're doing, and it's not set offense where, okay, we're just going to go out and kind of jump around. It sets the whole tone of the game. So when that's working, and you guys have a really good transition with a lot of young legs in there.
Yeah, no, we do. We take a lot of pride in it. Again, reverse transition as well, and cutting off transition is a big part of our offense. But when you have guys in the back end like Will Johansson and Jackson Nishimura and Nick Chakowski, Colton Wongton, like pretty much every single one of them has the ability to score. Pat Kazchuk. When you have those guys, it almost puts an extra emphasis on the other team's offense to okay, not only do we have to try to score, but we also can't let them get an opportunity to score. And then again, we're still growing in that aspect. We're still a young team with, not a ton of experience. But if you can get 2 transition goals a game, that's another 2 right there that, in a 1-goal league, that's a big difference maker. And we've been fortunate. We got a lot of guys back there that can push the ball and put the ball in the net and make teams pay. And they've been doing a great job of getting the ball up to us, whether they're scoring or getting it to the offense and letting us operate. It still puts the other team on their heels to sink in and get off early, and maybe take a too many men penalty here or there. And it's also just a momentum goal too. And to see a D guy working his butt off in the D end, get a breakaway and score, it's just it almost means more to that, more than a normal goal, right?
Yeah. Now, I thanked you off air, and I want to thank again on air for the Gales night, because of course, being part of the Gales and stuff like that. That was your birthday, and what a magical night, man. 7 goals. Every time you touched the ball, it didn't matter where you were, it fell. It felt like I was watching Sittler's recreation that night. And, talk about the magic when things are just working, when things just feel right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a combination of luck, obviously, and confidence. I think when you see a couple go early, you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to keep pushing the envelope here a little bit and see what happens. And I think it's also a testament to the guys I get to play with. I mean, when things are going right, it's a lot of fun. And I play with such a talented group up there, and a lot of young guys that I'm very comfortable with off the floor as well, that I could call at any point, any day, and know that I can have a conversation with them about anything. I think that's a big part of it. But when things are going well, it's one of those things you can ask anyone in the league who's ever had a hot stick before, which I'm sure is pretty much everyone, is, sometimes when you can't miss, you can't miss. And you can throw anything at the net, and maybe you're in a goalie's head. Maybe he doesn't know where you're shooting. And hell, half the time you don't even know where you're shooting, but that he doesn't. And I got lucky on a couple of those, but it was fun to see, and to see how happy everyone was at that point in time. And it doesn't matter who was scoring, everyone was jumping up. I think we had 16 goals that game, and our defense locked it down in the back end. And it's fun when things are working, and hopefully we can get them working again in the back half of the season and get back to that, because it's a lot more fun, I'll tell you.
Yeah, because I think that game is more of a testament of what this team is all about. Not with some of the other games that we've watched, is that when things are working and when everybody is doing their thing, that's the kind of offense, that's the kind of high octane, and that's the kind of lockdown defense that you have.
Exactly. I think that was the closest thing to a full 6 we put together. And I think, again, that's the standard. That's kind of the game you look back on. It's like, this is what we're capable of. And we got to be, again, consistency is such a huge thing in an 18-game season, and every game means so much, and there's no time for mental errors or taking a day off or taking a shift off. Even it's got to be every shift. And you look at 2 seconds left in the shot clock, that's still plenty of time to get your hands free and let a shot go. And I think we just got to be better in those small opportunities, and offensively and defensively, and capitalizing on stuff like that. And again, that's kind of the standard that we set in that game, and I think that's kind of what we're trying to build back towards. And we've been close a couple of times, and again, it's kind of slipped away from us, but those are that we always have that to look back on as kind of the standard. And when things are getting tough, we've proven to ourselves that we can do it.
Right. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about summertime and your time now with PLL. And let's talk about that, and getting drafted into them in 2023, and you're with Chaos, or Carolina Chaos now. And let's talk about the league itself and all the differences from what we know as field lacrosse to what the Rebels have given us now, with a much more TV-friendly idea.
Yeah, it's different. I obviously was grateful to get drafted and to have a couple seasons there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out last year. I ended up playing in the summer, which, again, I was grateful for that opportunity. The Man Cup was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. But the game of the PLL game, it's different than the college game. It's different than typical field lacrosse. They have a 2-point arc. It's a lot faster paced with a shorter shot clock than the 80-second college shot clock. But it's fun. It's fun as hell to play. I mean, the guys are so talented, and I think the main difference that you see is the growth in athleticism. So some of these guys are NFL capable players, and you get guys dodging at full speed, and they're moving so fast. And they can throw a pass off their back foot, underhand, across the field for 30 yards and right on the ear. And you just see such a different skill gap when guys have that much time and space to operate. And then these guys that are shooting 115 miles an hour from the 2-point arc, it's pretty surreal. You know, it's enjoyable to watch on TV, I think. But when you're in the middle of a game and you're watching it, you're just you're almost trying not to get lost watching the ball move too much. You're like, oh, well, I got to keep playing here. But it's a fun game. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to continue playing it. I really enjoyed it. But who knows? Maybe one day I'll get an opportunity to get back into it. But I love the game of field lacrosse. And again, like I said earlier, lacrosse is lacrosse. And no matter the discipline that you put it in, it's still a stick and a ball and throwing a ball around with a bunch of buddies, all with the same goal to win and to put the ball in the net. So I have nothing bad to say about it. It was fun while it lasted, and I was grateful to be a part of it. And again, I do love the NLL, and that's where my passion is more so. And I've had more success in that league. But you know, the PLL was a great time and a lot of great guys that I got to play with and was very fortunate for it. But yeah, the game it's just a fast-paced game, man, and the athletes out there are just a different breed.
Right. Now, here's a question that I have, because you've been in both, is do you think the NLL is missing the boat now by not reinstating an all-star game? Because you take a look at what the PLL has done, and now they made that all-star weekend just something to behold. And I can drill down a little bit further on my idea once we get past this.
Yeah, I mean, I forget. I don't even know when the last All-Star game was in the NLL, and it's one of those things where, you know, guys are so busy, and I get it, and it's a bit of a longer season, so having a bye week off is really nice. I do think an All-Star game would be fun. I would love to have that as something to play for, and you know, hopefully, you know, guys get named to it on your team, and it'd be pretty cool to watch. I think the difference is how physical the NLL is compared to field lacrosse. Is, you know, you look at the all-star games in the NFL and it's like flag football and no one wants to get hurt. I don't know if that would play a factor into it. Whereas the PLL, you know, it's not as physical. It's a lot more athletically inclined, and, you know, guys are able to not get hit as much. And you got guys in the NLL that play a very physical role. But I'd be interested to see how it would work. I think the skills competition would be cool to do, to have like an accuracy or a breakaway or, you know, say similar to the NHL. But yeah, I think it would be great to have. I think the reasoning would come down to, you know, guys not wanting to get hurt doing it, I think would be a big part of it. But I think I'd be all for it. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun to have an extra weekend, have everyone have a bye week and reset midway through the season and name an all-star team and have guys compete. But I'd be all for it.
Now, I wish Frank was here because I can't take credit for the idea, but the idea that we had come up with was kind of like we did in hockey years ago, was that the champion, I guess we'd have the Bandits, would host the game, and they would be Team A, and then the League All-Stars would be Team B. So now there's something in it for everybody. The All-Stars don't want to lose to the Bandits. The Bandits don't want to lose to the All-Stars. You have 6 months to market the game, so you're going to get a crowd and work at it from there. So there's skin in the game. So it's not going to be a flag football game. We're not going to see 75 goals and just, you know, a dipsy doodle kind of thing. We'd actually see a game.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see how that would turn out. I mean, I would have no arguments getting a chance to play on an all-star team or have that be, you know, something to play towards. But maybe you got to get in contact with the commissioner and throw that out there and see what he says. I'm sure the players would love to have another opportunity to play with the best in the world. So I like the idea. I think it'd be something. You know, I think it'd be something to draw views too. I think the fans would love it too, and to get the best players in the world coming to town to play your team would be something to definitely look forward to and circle on the calendar.
Right, and I think there would be a reasoning to, you know, for linear TV, since you have ESPN and TSN at the ready, that this is an opportunity missed, because you have something that, you know, pub owners can just flip it on and it's there. Now, we got the Friday games of the week and things like that going on now. And probably the best feeling that I had was the first year that happened. I was downtown, and I walked into a pub, and on every TV was lacrosse. It's like, I finally come here after being on my soapbox for years, screaming about it, because, when we do social platforms, guys like me, that's fine, man. I'd watch it on a washing machine if I could. But, to get the regular folk, it's tough to get new blood watching it when you can go, it's only for $5. You can, sure, have it on and watch. I've done this sitting at a bar, and I've had it on a tablet, and I've watched slowly as we're going along. And before you know it, there's a whole bunch of people looking over my shoulder. I've Chromecast it on screens in bars. I'm watching the conversation slowly turn to the screen, and everybody's watching the game. It's that addictive. You guys are that good that, I don't know anybody I've taken to a game and they want their time back.
I was going to say, the one thing that I've always said is I've never heard of anyone who went to an NLL game or watched an NLL game and said, damn, that sucked. Everyone seems to love it. And everyone who ever experiences it, they seem to love it. Music's blasting the whole time. It's a party. It's electric. So it's not like a 1-0 game or 2-0 game kind of thing. It ends up, it's a race to 10 or 12. So a lot of action. I mean, I've tried to introduce it to a bunch of people I went to school with, and they all seem to love it. And having guys that they know can watch, but it's getting there. I think we're on the right track, and I think the league's doing a pretty good job. And again, a couple more things here and there for everyone, having ideas to pitch in is a great way to keep growing it, I think.
Absolutely. Now, I want to hit a little bit about summer ball because you talked about being out in the Western Lacrosse Association. I do a lot of stuff with MSL, and I am a part of the board for OSL. So I keep myself fairly busy driving up and down the highways here in Ontario, catching about 130 games I did last year. So not bad. Yeah. My car gets a lot of miles.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the summer this year was, hopefully not a once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully I get there again. But at the time, it felt like a once in a lifetime experience. That was surreal, to be able to go out to that team and as talented as we were, and get to go against get to go through the Western playoffs and eventually make the Mann Cup and go out there. And everyone talks about how rowdy Queen's Park gets and how energetic and how historic it is, and I got to see it firsthand and be a part of it and have the fans cheering for our team, and it was crazy. It was one of the most impactful moments of my career up until this point, probably my life at this point. But I have no words to even that can describe it, that can do it just. It was so awesome. And again, we came up short in game 7, but
you were this close from making history, really.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you're so close and it didn't bounce our way at the end, but the guys that I got to meet along the way and the experiences that I had and being out there for the summer in such a beautiful place and getting to be part of that historical organization was something that I'll never take for granted, and I'll look back on it and be so happy about every time.
Right.
No matter how that game went, it was still something that I'll always hold close to my heart.
Right. Talk about playing on that floor. Is there a lot of adjustment with the glare and just with the slickness of it and everything else that goes with it?
So I didn't, you think about it before the game a lot. Once the whistle blows, you don't think about it. But in the Mann Cup, it got slick. And I think game 1 was really bad. They had the kids coming out every like minute and a half or something to wipe the floor down. It was almost to the point like, all right, we got to finish this game, guys. Like if you fall, like it's affecting everyone. But it was the bounces are weird. It's really loud. Like if the ball bounces or a stick drops or a guy hits, moving picks, we're getting called because the guy hits the floor and it sounds like a bomb's going off. But the floor itself was just, the shininess. It was like a bright, like a tealish, like bright vinyl or whatever laminated wood, and it was really cool. I had never played on wood before in my life, really. So that was a really cool experience. I was really happy. It was awesome. I mean, the old floor hanging in the rafters is one thing. I don't know if I would have enjoyed playing on that as much, but the floor was pretty cool. And the barn was such a perfect size and the history around it. But it was pretty cool to be able to, to play there for a summer and to, get kind of infiltrated into that program.
Sure. Now, honestly, I love summer ball. I love the way it's played, more grit. I'm perplexed that we can't get more people to it. Obviously, Victoria, New West, you get people. Obviously, Peterborough, Six Nations to a degree, you get people. But all the other places have trouble drawing big crowds other than alumni. And it drives me insane because really it's mostly NLL guys at a much cheaper price and much more accessible. And it's like, why can't we get these people there? Granted, it's summer, but for a couple of hours in an evening, why not? It just doesn't make sense.
No, I agree. It's a good, it's a good source of entertainment. And I agree. There's a lot of NLL guys that play. I don't know if kids having their minor ball during the summer plays a factor into it, and having a night off is nice for them. But yeah, I mean, this is my first summer playing real summer ball. I played in the COVID one when it was all at the track there, just to kind of keep a stick in my hands. But that was the first full summer I've done, and it was phenomenal. I mean, New West packed the barn, so I had no complaints. They're great out there. They're great to me. But yeah, it's one of those things where everyone wants more lacrosse, and then there's more lacrosse out there, and they're struggling to get fans for those games. But then you get the junior A centers, right? A couple of the junior A centers have some good stuff. Elora, Orangeville packs the barn. Whitby's got a big barn to pack, so it's kind of hit and miss with it. But you get some good fan bases here and there, and I find the smaller communities always kind of rally behind it because there's not much else to do. Right. But no, I enjoy the summer game, and I even when I'm doing nothing in the summer, or I'm home for a week, or visiting my family or something, going to a game is always top of the list for us. Like, oh, what do you guys want to do tonight? Go watch junior game? Like, might as well. So it is a big part of it. I've always enjoyed going to watch.
Right. And I always thought, if we marketed it to the kids where they wear their team jersey, they get in for free. Obviously they're not coming by themselves, so the family has to pay. So you're still making money, but you're getting that interest, and you're not. It's like I said with the NLL. If you market to the kids and not the mill idea of market to the party, you don't sell one ticket, you sell 5 tickets, because sooner or later, brother, sister, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, grandpa, grandma, they're all coming.
Exactly.
And, that's how you build your fan bases.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I agree.
And I think the summer's missing out on that as well, especially with the festivals, in Whitby and things like that, to bring everybody in there. And, just if you wear your team jersey, in you go.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to do it.
Now, let's look at a little bit of State of the Union. Where is Canadian lacrosse right now, in your opinion? Are we moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not too involved with that kind of stuff. Being so new to the league, I don't have a huge understanding or a huge knowledge or background on it. But I think we got guys in good spots that are doing the right things. We just got a new CBA, and from what I've heard from everyone, they're pretty satisfied with it. And the new commissioner is doing a great job, I think, of advertising it. And again, I don't know where all the, what the priorities are in regards to, is the TV deal the biggest thing they're looking for? Is the fan engagement at games the biggest thing? But I think it's going in the right direction. I mean, from what I've heard, everyone's pretty happy with the turnouts that they've been getting for the most part at most arenas. In Oshawa, I have no complaints with everything that we're doing there from a an advertising and viewership perspective. But I think everything's moving in the right direction, and I'm hoping that it continues to move that way.
Right. I was looking at being part of the Arena Lacrosse League as well. There's so much talent there, both West and East, that expansion has to be on the lips of the league at some point, because we're going to lose a lot of good players who aren't going to get a crack in a 14-team league if we don't start expanding. But we have to be very choosy of where we go, because we've had Panther City, we've had a couple of moves now. I like the idea of putting the team like Oshawa to put it in another base that already knows the game of box lacrosse. I don't care if it's in the US or in Canada, but knows the game of box lacrosse, so that you already have a ready-made base that understands. Am I on point with that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the talent pool for the game of lacrosse is so big right now, and there's so many good players that are struggling to find opportunities. And I wish there were 100 teams and we played I wish it was the NHL where we had 82 games a season. There was a full-time thing. And I think that's, the direction they're trying to get. Obviously it's a long ways away, but I think I'm not sure from the ownership perspective on what kind of sources and resources are there for expansion teams to be there. But if one came around or two came around or even three came around, I think it'd be great for the league to continue to add and build and grow and, and give more people like myself opportunities to, prove what they got and get out on a field. And that's the thing with the PLLs. There's only 8 teams. And, I'd argue that there's more field lacrosse, and maybe not more, but there's 75 Division I teams and there's 32 draft picks a year in that league. And it's, again, they're brand new and they're starting out and they've done a really good job as well. But, the more teams, it's as much money as you can find. Right. And I think it comes down to ownership and accessibility. So I'm not sure on the X's and O's part, but, to the naked eye, which is me, I would love as many teams and as many games as possible and as many opportunities to play.
Well, you say we're a fair amount of distance away, but I had former commissioner Nick Sakavitz on a ways back when he was still commissioner. And basically what he had said is where we're at is basically the NHL about 75, 76, where we had TV, but we hadn't had the explosion yet. We hadn't had the Oilers of 80, 81, 82, and the Islanders, all that. And when all of a sudden, boom, everybody was there and salaries went with it. So if we're only, 5, 6, 8 years away from that, we're not that far off, really. And I think with the Olympics coming in 2028, I think that's the big thing, the big date circled of we have to make sure that we have everything in a row now, because first impressions are lasting ones, and you get 280 more countries to look at it. And here you go. Here's your stage.
Absolutely. I think getting in the Olympics is probably the best thing that could happen for the sport. I think it's the, kind of the pinnacle of all sports. So to be able to have, our sport be represented there is going to be huge. And I would, whatever it would take to add more teams and to get more eyes on the game and to get more people there and get more opportunity to play. I nothing but positive energy towards that for sure.
Absolutely. The big thing I think with that is that the league, I'm hoping that they're getting that now, is an exit strategy, because otherwise we have 2 weeks of going, oh, that was great. And then we go back to the norm. So if we have the exit strategy of what to do marketing wise after that, because again, like you say, it's a stick and a ball, whether it's sixes, whether it's field, whether it's blocks, whether, for the naked eye, who's, some country that I can't even pronounce, watching it for the first time is like, wow, this is exciting. What is it? How do I see more of it?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Because, my time over doing the Rabeski tournament and watching European lacrosse and watching it grow just in about the 5 years that I've been going back and forth is incredible. And watching teams out of Japan, teams out of Korea, teams out of, the Czech Republic itself, just watching the different styles and watching them elevate themselves into the game using a lot of North American coaches is showing me that come 2028, this is going to be a very interesting thing in the Olympics.
Yeah, no, I agree.
This brings us over to what's in the future for Tye Kurtz.
Hopefully a couple championships. Lacrosse, I want to play the game as long as I can. I love it. It's my life. It really means everything to me, and I've played it my whole life. It's given me purpose. It's given me an education. It's given me a family, and I want to play as long as I can. That's the simplest way for me to put it. I want to play at the highest level. I want to play at the highest level for the longest, and do whatever I can to continue to do that. And again, I think it starts with just staying mentally focused and playing every game. You never know what's coming tomorrow, right? So go there and give it everything you got today, and hope tomorrow comes, and pray for that, and just be grateful for the opportunity that you're given. For me, I'm grateful every time I step on that floor or grab my stick or anything like that. So the dream is to have a long career and to win a couple championships and to make some great memories and great friends and family along the way, and that would be fantastic. And I think for now it's just kind of keeping the focus on the present and moving forward as a unit. And again, you got to continue to perform to stay in this league. And for me, I think that's a daily reminder of just doing the little things right and continuing to grow as a person as well. Right.
Is coaching on the radar down the road?
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to start a program up at some point, or see what I could do with that. Or, I coach for the FireWolves quite a bit, and run a couple camps. Last week I got one over March break that we're doing, and I love it. I love giving back and teaching the game. And I've always said, it's not work if you love doing it, and I love doing it. So
Exactly.
I would love to coach. I love the game. I love watching the film and breaking down, the film side of the game, and game planning and stuff like that. So eventually, who knows, that's something that I would obviously, if my career does well, and I enjoy it, and the opportunity were to present itself later in life, would be something. As of now, speaking now as a third year player, that's something that I would love to do eventually. But and hopefully I continue to have that love for the game, and I can't see it going anywhere. So coaching would be great. I would love to.
Absolutely. I really want to thank you for taking the time on your bye week where you could actually just sit back and relax and just get yourself together. I look forward to seeing your next game over in Oshawa in mid-March, and I look forward to having a chance to talk with you in person again. So really, thank you again, and take care, and all the best.
Hey, absolutely. I love it. I love coming on and talking about the game, and hear what you guys have to say about it. So I really appreciate you having me on anytime.
Absolutely. I was Tye Kurtz of the Oshawa FireWolves. I'm Gary Groob with NLL Lacrosse Talk, seen every Thursday here on Streampunk Entertainment. Until next week, everybody, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.